What is street art? Why is it getting more popular every year? How does the work of graffiti artists from Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, and Kyrgyzstan differ from their colleagues from abroad? We'll tell you about it in the new episode of Colors of Asia. Hello, you're watching Colors of Asia. I'm Rashid Botbaev. We decided to dedicate this episode to street art, which in recent years has been actively developing in many countries of our region. Before we present to your attention the stories that our correspondents have prepared, I would like to remind you that street art is a kind of modern urban art. This direction includes wall drawings, images in public places and on various objects, street installations, stickers, posters, and more. And today, we will focus on wall paintings and images in public places, as they gradually become a tradition in many cities of our countries and are admired by the citizens. Nowadays, it is probably difficult to determine where and when the first wall drawings appeared, but it's clear that this type of fine art is one of the oldest. Today, it's impossible to imagine many cities of the world without graffiti and large-scale wall images. And no one is even trying to claim that this is an act of hooliganism, a madness, or an act of vandalism. And it's nice that through street art, the world learns about young artists who use the wall, fence, or the body of some abandoned tram as their canvas. By the way, Almaty is a city that was one of the first in Central Asia to pay attention to street art and began to actively develop it. And now, we would like to tell you how this genre of art is advancing in the largest metropolis of Kazakhstan, and we will introduce you to a young but already quite famous graffiti artist. Almaty is a big city, and sometimes it's difficult for the residents to follow everything that's happening in it. However, the appearance of street art was definitely not left without the attention of the public. And I must say that, in this regard, Almaty has given a jumpstart to all other cities of Kazakhstan. It's encouraging that street art includes not only graffiti. In the city, for example, you can see many different and very original installations. Although painting still prevails, and thanks to the work of young artists, much has been transformed in Almaty and acquired a completely different look. Take, for example, underground passages, which for some time began to look completely different. I must say that the city administration decided to adopt the experience of their colleagues from Berlin and allocated several so-called free zones for graffiti artists. And now street art fans have the opportunity to constantly look and admire something new and fresh. And now street art fans have the opportunity to constantly admire and look at something new and fresh. I like it. It's better than an empty wall or a fence. Let everything be in such paintings. I like it very much. I saw the paintings and thought about young people who try to do it and know how to do it. These paintings have meaning. Each drawing is unique, and I think it decorates the city. It's very beautiful. Every time I pass it, I stop and contemplate it, because every time there are new drawings here, and it's very beautiful. Almaty murals can be called special. They are all different, original, and unique in their own way. I must say that the artists from Almaty are fans of their business. Here, for example, Muhit Dulu. He's a representative of the new wave of artists. His works are unique, each of them has a deep meaning. And this is not accidental, because his two grandfathers, writer Gadir Murzaliyev and painter Amandos Akanayev, taught Muhit since he was a child to approach everything he does thoroughly. When I was 4 years old, I had felt-tip pens, and I began to draw right on wallpaper. Both my grandfather, Amandos Akanayev, and my grandmother, Nelly, paid attention to it and allowed me to do it. And I was given a quite big piece of the wall for such creativity. And at the age of 13, I got an urge to paint something on the walls. And I got the construction paints, Happy Color. I still remember its smell, and it's very nostalgic to me. It was my first time. And right in the courtyard where we lived, on Bukhar Jarau, where the house is divided by arches, I painted under those arches. Today, Muhit mostly works with his younger brother Gleb Antoshenko Alenev. Street art gives them great pleasure, and their style has become recognizable.
Почему я использую вот такие скифские мотивы часто?
Why do I often use Scythian motifs, mix Kazakh traditional motifs with them? It's to emphasize that this is the legacy, this is the tradition. Kazakh culture in particular directly comes from the Scythian culture, for example. It takes its origin from there. And here is the result. What does the work look like? It looks modern because a modern technology is used. The same street art and modern paints and modern elements. Sometimes I use writings. Sometimes I use a color palette, as in traditional beautiful graffiti. I use some flashy colors that are very compatible with each other. I literally mix it with elements of the ancient past. I'm just mixing the ancient with the present to make it real at this very moment. Our heritage is currently functioning. It's in use. It is taken as the basis for the modern art. It reflects our culture. It shows how different our country, our people are, what makes them interesting for the world.
Расскажу о своей работе. Она называется «Кубыс».
I'll tell you about my work. It's called Qobuz. As simple as it is, one word, Qobuz. At the same time, it tells a story of the origin of a musical instrument. We all know the history of kurkutata. But at some point, I wanted to fantasize and tell my story. Maybe this musical instrument was given to people by another race, some other creatures. And it looked different, and it had a different specificity. And later, here on Earth, it was transformed into the form in which we know it now. My story is that a man and a woman inside the resonating holes are either dancing or talking. And on the right side, there is a big star, some kind of planet. Such symbolism came from somewhere from the sky. It is a decorative work, full of familiar patterns and colors. It was painted in 2019 on a hot day like today. It took us 8 days to complete it, and it rained during 2 of them. It is located opposite to a large hotel, specifically to improve the entrance space of this building.
Это наш, можно сказать, первый большой фасад. Вот, когда мы
This is our first big facade. When we planned to paint it, I went through various sketches and eventually decided that one of my existing works should be applied to the wall with some corrections. Pink background, black and white patterns. Actually, this is my traditional manner, the way I used to work on paper. It depicts a girl in a national headdress with an owl on top of it. We know that a little owl bird is a good symbol. The headdress consists of different details in which I put a lot of meaning. The work differs in style from the traditional street art. Basically, I have black and white drawings with a colored background. And it seems like a clipping, looks like a sticker. I added some steampunk elements to our national culture, because we don't have them. Talking to Muhit, it would be illogical not to touch on the topic of extreme, because not every artist would dare to engage in such creativity. Yes, it's pretty extreme, especially when it comes to images on the walls. It is the pictorial format when it is 2 meters high above the ground. This is definitely an extreme. It is necessary to go down, see how it turns out, climb again, pick up some other colors. It takes a lot of physical work. But the result is worth it. The drawing is very beautiful and large scale. And we strive, at least I do, that each of my drawings looks like that. When we painted that mural on Jibek Joly Желтоқсан streets, it was our first large format drawing. Personally, it means a lot to me. There are 5 floors, there are such Cobra, the Soviet one, and old Soviet technology. Later, however, we were given a good car with a crane, but the first one was such a broken down car, it was scary to work on it. But we managed to do part of the work on it. When we went up, at first there was fear. But there I understood that this is not done for the sake of pleasure. It's not a carousel on which I want to give myself a sense of fear and enjoy it. This is inappropriate. We had to do the specific work we wanted and which we were ordered to do. Therefore, fear somehow automatically disappeared. Personally, I forgot about it. And this work of Muhit is located near the station square and, of course, attracts the attention of everyone who comes to Almaty.
Здесь иллюстрация «Легенда о тюрке». Вот. Изображена, конечно...
Here is the illustration The Legend of the Turk. Of course, there is a she-wolf who picked up a baby and brought him up. Why do I like it? Because the wolf is a beautiful animal, one of my favorite topics. Many different characters from the cartoons were wolf-like, and I always liked them. Further below, the word Tengri is written in runic, or rather Turkic script. It's very canonical and very famous. And these runes, I think, will be recognized by everyone. The rest of composition is also about a decorative format. It's centralized, there is a certain center of the composition, and there is no dynamic in it. It's more static. The cross in the circle is Shanirak, a solar symbol. Next is the name of god Tengri, the god of the sky. The wolf itself is depicted in my favorite manner, when everything around is realistic. The child is real, the background is decorative in color, and the animal itself consists of some details, as if spare metal parts of a metallic and gold tint were connected together.
Такого металлического золотого оттенка.
According to Muhit, street art in Kazakhstan is gaining momentum, and there are many talented graffiti artists whose works delight the eye. This attracts the attention of many tourists.
Колорит, да, разумеется, присутствует. И вот что интересно, вот чем...
Of course, there is a color. And here's what's interesting. The less an artist has Western style, the less he's influenced by it, the more original his works are. And this is a good quality because it reflects and demonstrates this color. It shows and reflects the more tangible realities associated with the place where we live.
Более ощутимые реалии, что ли, вот связаны именно с тем местом, где мы живем.
Muhit Dulu is a participant of many competitions, festivals. He often travels to other regions of the country and abroad. He likes to watch the works of his colleagues. And like every person of art, he has his own aspirations and wishes.
Чтобы современный Казахстан был современным, именно с учетом...
Kazakhstan must be modern, with its own culture, existing developments left from our ancestors, but in modern interpretation, so that our art does not become like someone else's. It shouldn't be too Western, nor it shouldn't be Eastern or too traditional. It should be balanced and modern. That's what I'm striving for. I wanted it to be like that.
Вот к этому я стремлюсь. Я хочу, чтобы было так.
The next story that we want to bring to your attention is about how street art is developing in the capital of Kyrgyzstan. Our colleagues from Bishkek will tell us about the work of one of the most popular artists in the country. And I must say, the work of this artist and his team will leave no one indifferent. Despite the fact that residents of Kyrgyzstan have learned about the concept of street art just recently, this type of art became quite noticeable here. For example, Viktor Tsoy, a graffiti artist from the creative group Basic Colors. He graduated from one of the most prestigious universities in the country. He has 2 degrees, which strangely enough have nothing to do with any type of art. In the late 1990s, Viktor realized that his vocation was to paint. At first, he messed around and made some drawings on the fences, gradually switched to depicting various characters from cartoons, portraits of people. Well, now the artist prefers to create more complex and large-scale works.
У меня это пошло, потому что родители меня поддержали в свое время. Да, то есть они...
Everything turned out well for me because my parents supported me in due time.
С самого начала, да, и сейчас понятно, да, что когда люди видят уровень... Да,
Of course, they saw hooliganism in this, especially back in the day, was fairly new. But now, when people see the level and see that we are invited all over the world, they understand that this is something serious. But at that time, I was 16, 17 years old. Nobody knew anything about graffiti. Of course, it was hard to break through because there was no internet, and then we could not imagine the scale of the graffiti. At that time, we were collecting it bit by bit. I have been drawing probably since I was 3, maybe earlier. I painted with a pencil, and gradually by the end of my studies at school, I began to understand that the pencil and a piece of paper did not give me the opportunity to show everything that I would like to express. And when I saw that there is a wall and I can draw something big on it, it was time when I realized that I would be doing this for the rest of my life.
Именно тогда я понял, что я этим буду заниматься всю жизнь.
It's customary to refer to graffiti any images placed on fences, facades of various buildings, and other public places. Many are mistaken that a drawing, for example on a wall, is much more difficult than in any sketchbook. As for spray painting technique, you need to clearly understand how it works. This paint, which with the help of pressure comes out in a stream, is not very thin. And when we talk about small and large drawings, then of course, large ones are easier to draw on the wall. The works of Victor and his associates can be seen in different parts of Bishkek. Some are located under the bridges that connect the southern and northern parts of the city, others on the fences of various offices, as well as in the open pool of the capital's sports palace. The artist knows that in Kyrgyzstan, street art does not stand still.
В стрит-арте на самом деле очень много проявлений. Да? Это не только то, что вы видите в виде рисунков.
There are actually a lot of manifestations in street art. This is not only what you see in the form of drawings and so on. This can be installations and stickers. It could be anything, even here in Bishkek in Central Asia. Maybe you saw trees in Europe that are tied with threads. This is also street art. It is developed very well.
Оно развито на самом деле, да.
When we look at other countries, only in comparison we can see where we are behind and where we are not. In fact, the rate of development, of course, slowed down in our country, because probably the market is still small, and commerce should be present in order for people to have interest and for this movement to grow. Our movement is permanent, but it's very slow, sometimes even invisible.
Движение у нас перманентное, но оно очень такое медленное, поэтому иногда даже незаметное.
Victor recalls his first creative experiments with awe. My first work has been gone long time ago. I painted it on my parents' fence in the house where I used to live. It was made half with spray paint, half with crayons. I remember we used grass, even drew a little using grass, because paint was an affordable luxury at that time. When we could buy one spray of paint, we cherished every bit of it. Well, now Victor and his team are invited to annual festivals in different countries. Their largest project is a portrait of a Kyrgyz girl painted on one of the large walls in one of the cities of France.
Это было в 2019 году, но такое ощущение, как будто это было только вчера. Мои друзья, они пригласили меня на фестиваль Just Do Paint. Этот фестиваль проводится...
It was in 2019, but it feels like it was yesterday. My friends invited me to Just Do Paint festival. This festival is held on the shores of the Atlantic in French Brittany.
Почему вообще Британь? Потому что там через...
We painted there for 7 days. I was lucky enough to paint 100 square meters. I drew a Kyrgyz girl because I wanted to show our culture and where I come from.
Мне посчастливилось
They were interested. They asked questions, why the girl was dressed like that, why there was such a hat on her head, and etc.
Зрителям было очень интересно, потому что большинство...
For me, as an artist, it was interesting to work on a large wall because I never painted anything alone on such walls. When we draw on a big wall like murals, as a rule we painted together with a team. At that place, I painted everything alone. Why this happened so easily? Because we were provided with appropriate equipment. A robot lift.
Как правило, эта стена делается при помощи команды. Там же я рисовал один. Почему это произошло так легко? Потому что на фестивале нам выделялась техника, специальный подъемник-робот.
Victor's creative group receives orders for various projects from both local art lovers and citizens from other countries of the world.
Совсем недавно мы закончили один проект, но вообще он такой коммерческий и он секретный.
We recently finished a project. It's commercial and it's a secret. We were ordered a big piece of art, quite large, dedicated to one celebrity. This is a world star. We took a time-lapse video and took a photo of our work. It was all sent to the United States. The goal of this project is for the star to see both the video and the work itself, and use this photo on its profile picture. This is a very large-scale project. It involves several international agencies. And I'm very pleased that I became part of it. This is the first project when people from the US come here and ask to do such a large-scale work.
Аж из Европы, то есть из Америки через Европу стучатся сюда и просят сделать такой проект.
This team of artists has their own principles. They have to refuse customers who ask to copy a particular drawing. They are fully aimed at creating exclusively their own original works. For us, first of all, it's important what we draw. In fact, there are many people who want to order graffiti, but unfortunately, most of the orders that we see and receive are something like, draw us flowers, draw us what we found on the internet. We tell them that we travel around the world. We must draw what belongs only to us. We must respect the copyright. Artists from the creative group Basic Colors have many plans for the future. For example, this year, for the first time in Kyrgyzstan, they want to create a center for contemporary art where people who are interested in graffiti could come. There, people can freely communicate, exchange their ideas and experience. Well, now we will go to Azerbaijan. In this country, street art is also gaining momentum and is becoming quite popular. And it's important to know that Azerbaijan artists contribute lots of their national color to the development of this genre of painting. And their work can truly be called masterpieces. For the capital of Azerbaijan, street art is a relatively new direction of fine art. Although back in the 90s of the last century, one could see various graffiti on the walls and abstract drawings in the city. Today, street art is used by the city authorities as an element of street and building decoration. The creative works of professional artists can now be seen in different areas, and they all use this opportunity to promote this genre and just please people with their creativity. We usually work in a team when we have to draw on the street. Our works can be seen in the central part of Baku. And recently, we carried out a large-scale improvement project in the villages of Bibieybat and Balakhana, which is not far from the capital, and we took an active part in this process. Our drawings on the walls create a special atmosphere. Street art is a new direction in Azerbaijan. This genre of fine art is interesting. If other genres are more used to design buildings from the inside, here all the charm of art is directed to the public. In Azerbaijan, the traditional genres of fine art were mainly used to design buildings. These are various ornaments and mosaics. Walls were rarely painted with drawings. I can give you one example. This is the palace of the Shaki Khans, in which exclusively drawings were used from the inside. In Soviet times, mosaics and stained glass windows were popular, and it was not possible to draw on the wall. In decorative and visual arts, only state-approved genres could be used. Since 1990s, everything has changed. Young people liked graffiti. They began to paint in an unconventional manner to express their views in a very original way. It all started with some ridiculous writings on the walls of the buildings. Of course, this did not decorate the facades. Therefore, it was forbidden by law. But the city is big, so the young people found places to express themselves. Over time, the city authorities decided to use such creativity for the good, in particular for the improvement of the urban environment. At the same time, street art began to develop, incorporating the genres of traditional fine art.
Balıqxanada gedən bərpa işləri vaxtı bizə təklif olundu ki,
This approach in the improvement of the city's image began to be applied quite recently. As artists, we were unexpectedly invited to participate in restoration work in the village of Balakhany near Baku. And what do artists need to implement their ideas? A space, of course. So we started our work.
imkanlarını istifadə edərək hamı maraqlı yerlər axtarır ki, öz şəkillərini çəksinlər.
The village of Balakhany became famous at the beginning of the 20th century, when an oil boom began in Azerbaijan. Most of the black gold was produced here. Not so long ago, local authorities decided to carry out restoration work here. Artists took an active part in this process. Thanks to their work and creative thinking, now interesting and original drawings with national motifs give the streets a unique color. Sakhavat Mamadov has been drawing since he was 6 years old. He mainly prefers to work in the genre of realism. Therefore, he likes street art more. Street art in our country became popular relatively recently, about 3-4 years ago. Previously, we saw something similar only in European countries. You have to admit, colorful drawings of the urban or rural genre as well as elements of wildlife delight the eye. It's much better than just a white wall. Tourists are interested and residents do not get bored with monotony. In any case, looking at the images of cheerful children or animals makes people happy. It's very interesting, even more interesting than working in a workshop. According to the artists, they themselves select a particular wall for future work. They determine what image should appear on it. And before embarking on a creative journey, artists clean the surface, smooth it up to the perfect state. In their work, they use more stable paints so that drawings do not spoil under the influence of natural phenomena. In such works, we also use miniature works of other artists, reproduce them on the walls. And most importantly, our drawings can revive ordinary urban elements. For example, iron gates can become wooden due to the colorful texture. Closed windows will seem open. Colorful flower pots are perfectly placed on them. This has a positive effect on everyone's mood. The walls seem to come to life, and we also put our soul into them. My father was an artist, as well as my brother Emin. Children can draw. In the late 1990s, I was a young artist searching for myself, interested in new directions. Then I saw that there is a great need for the use of fine art in the improvement of cities. This approach was popular abroad, and gradually we also began to attract artists to such works. At the same time, I haven't given up on traditional art. I often participate in various competitions abroad.
Kardeşim keramika üzere ressamdı.
Street art is rapidly gaining momentum in the capital of Azerbaijan. Graffiti-style compositions appear everywhere in the city, like in this yard. Bizarre images, abstraction, various writings really decorated the gray walls of the streets. And I must say that now graffiti is no longer treated as a manifestation of a hooligan actions. On the contrary, it began to be perceived as part of a real art. Well, 30 minutes of the program flew by so fast, and if you like this episode of the program, but at some point you were distracted and missed something, don't worry, you can watch all our episodes on the official website of Qazaq TV and on its YouTube channel. This was Colors of Asia. See you next time.